Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then hi, I'm Shelly, and I love talking about books and reading. So if you aren't new here, then you will know that I am back in my space, because not MySpace, the old app in which you would find your friends and upload photos to me, the original social media app. No, MySpace, as in like I am back in the South in my little office area in my library, because I was in California for almost 3 weeks visiting my parents, my siblings, my husband's parents, and siblings as well. And so we have just gotten back. We took a red eye and got back. What was it? Was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. I'm losing track of time. And now we're back, and I'm back in my home, and that feels really, really great. Okay, so preamble over, introduction over. What am I doing today? Well, today I wanted to look at some stats for the numbers people out there, the number geeks out there like myself. I really enjoy looking at stats, and I enjoy breaking down stats, especially when I have full control over the narrative. Where did I get my numbers, and what do I mean that I have full control over my narrative? So I do keep track of my books in Goodreads, and what I did was that I exported my Goodreads books and cut out all of the books that were from previous years and narrowed a spreadsheet down narrowed down a spreadsheet based off of Goodreads of the books that I've read this year, and then I added in my own sorting. So I looked at whether something was fiction or nonfiction. I categorized all of the books into their own genres that I came up with. So, sometimes Goodreads or Storygraph will come up with their own genres, and I don't tend to like using their language. I like to think through the book myself and put it in a genre, or look it up and see where I would put it in a genre. Since this is my channel and my library, I like to do that thinking myself. So anyway, so I have subgenres. I have categorized things, fiction and nonfiction. I also have my computer right here. I looked at the authors that I've read more than one time. I have looked at translated works, the year that I read the most, so the publication year of books that has shown up most frequently. So anyways, we're gonna get into the stats, and if you are a numbers nerd, if you are somebody like me who just loves to get into stats, then this is the video for you, and I would encourage you to stick around. Okay, so let's just get into these numbers. For the sake of this video, I will also remind myself and let you all know that there will be timestamps down below in order for you all to navigate this video and use that as a roadmap in case this video gets a little bit chatty and a little bit long. Okay, so how many books did I read in total? I have read 55 books so far, and that is up to date as far as when I am filming this, and I am filming this on July 21st, and that is Thursday, 2022. Okay, of those 55 books, 36 were fiction books and 19 were nonfiction books. Okay, as far as subgenres. So my most read subgenre by far at 11 books is literary fiction. I'm not surprised. I really love literary fiction. It's kind of my go-to. My next subgenre that I read the most is actually a bit of a surprise, and that is 7 books. 7 books are historical fiction. And then we have 6 memoirs, which is not surprising. I really love memoirs. And 5 coming-of-age stories. Okay, so those are like my most read subgenres. Let's look at my most read authors, the authors that I've read at least 2 books by. So I've read 2 books by James Baldwin. I read The Fire Next Time and Giovanni's Room. I have read 2 books by Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own and To the Lighthouse. And then I read 2 books by Toni Morrison, and that was The Bluest Eye and Beloved. And then I also finished 2 books by authors, but I think of these books as duologies. So sometimes they're classified as one omnibus, or sometimes they're classified as two separate books. So for all you numbers peoples out there, like me, I want to know this kind of stuff too. For Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, I counted those as two books. So I read two books by Lewis Carroll and I read two books by Art Spiegelman. I'll actually grab those right now. The two books that I read by Art Spiegelman are A Survivor's Tale Part 1, My Father Bleeds History, and then Part 2, And Here My Troubles Began. I counted these as two books because physically, for me, they are, but for some other readers, Spiegelman's books and Carroll's books are bound up as one edition. So I counted these as two separate books. Okay, so for all of you who want to know what I've read in regards to translated works, I like this kind of stuff. And then I'll also tell you who it's translated by. So I read The Odyssey by Homer, translated by Robert Fitzgerald. Gold by Rumi, translated by Helena Lisa Ghaffori. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, the Maud translation. Damien, The Story of Emile Sinclair's Youth, written by Hermann Hesse and translated by Michael Roloff and Michael Lebeck. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, written by Stieg Larsson, translated by Reg Kiegland. And my most recent translated book that I finished was The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And this was Anne Frank, if we're doing the correct pronunciation. And this was translated from the Dutch by B.M. Mujaert. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I am infinitely curious, or I've gotten far more curious about translations and who's translated what and the translated works that others are reading since I've been on BookTube. So I wanted to share my list. An unusual format that I have gotten more into this year, or I have made it a priority to read, are my graphic novels. I have read 7 graphic novels, and a lot of those are documented in a video that I did a couple of months ago or 6 weeks ago, and it's called A Month with My Graphic Novels. I will leave that link down below, but I've been really enjoying the graphic novel format, and wouldn't be surprised if I doubled that number of 7 books to 14 books by the end of the year. I really love time periods, or I've become more interested in time periods. And so here I'm going to share the oldest book that I've read, the oldest written book, and go through how many books I've read in regards to like 100 years, right? Okay, so starting at 800 BC, there is The Odyssey by Homer. And then we move up quite a bit. We move up about 2,000 years and published or written in 1230 AD was Rumi's poems. So Gold by Rumi is the next oldest book. And then we get into the 1800s, and that's where you start to group books. I have read 5 books from 1800 to 1900. From 1900 to 1950, I have read 10 books. And then from 1951 to 1999, 11 books were written in that time period. And then then from 2000 on, let me see how many I've read from that. Okay, so my most read time period, starting from 2000 to the present day, I have read 27 books. And shockingly, 12 of those books, which is like 22% of my whole reading year, are from 2021, the year 2021. And I have a reason why. I was thinking about this. The reason why 2021 is my most read year is because of 2 main projects. One of which was the BookTube Prize, where I read 6 books in round 1 of the BookTube Prize, and they were all published in 2021. And then I got really into the Women's Prize for fiction in 2022, but most, if not all, of the books that I read for the Women's Prize were published in 2021. So yeah, I just can't believe how many modern or very, very current books that I've read. So I did say that the oldest book that I've read was, Homer's The Odyssey, which was written in 800 BC. And the most current book that I read was The Colony by Audrey McGee. I think that is true. One moment. Okay, so I thought it was The Colony. I thought my most recently published book that I have read this year was The Colony by Audrey McGee, but I just looked it up and it was originally published February 3rd, 2022, and originally published on April 5th of 2022 was Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart, which was a highly successful read for me. I definitely absolutely adored this book. And yeah, so I guess the most current book, the most recent book that was written and published was Douglas Stewart's Young Mungo, which is exciting. As far as the longest books that I've read, those two go to these. That would be War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, or Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Both of these come in at over 1,400 pages. So yeah. And ever since I've finished these two, I've been talking about how I've been very put off to mammoths, and this is probably why. Just a long time with a book. I also did a whole video about my feelings and thoughts about mammoths and my experience with them this year, because I have read quite a few. I made a whole video about that, and I will leave that linked down below. But these are definitely the longest books that I've read. The shortest book that I've read, I will show you right now. I'll go grab it. I quite literally don't know why I said that I was gonna go grab my shortest book. I have no idea where it is at. Oh wait, oh gosh. Oh, this is probably just where I'm at in my mind right now. It is right here. The shortest book that I've read is Where the Wind Blows by Raymond Briggs. This is a science fiction novel, or science fiction graphic novel. It's very, very short, and it explores the threat of atomic bombs. It was an interesting read, but this is only a mere 48 pages long, so not a nice balance to War and Peace. Okay, I'm going to call this portion of the video my feelings against Goodreads ratings. I am just going to use Goodreads ratings, their average rating for a book, and check it against how I feel about that. So let's go to the highest rated books that according to Goodreads that I have read this year, and let's see how I feel about them, starting at number 5. So the 5th highest rated book according to Goodreads, coming in at 4.43, is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. Well deserved. A 5 would be like a perfect rating, in case you don't know, and a 0, like anything close to 0 would be a really bad rating, or a 1. And so 4.43 is quite high, and I absolutely agree with that. I loved Young Mungo. I thought it was a fantastic coming of age novel that really explores the themes of what it means to be a man, masculinity, and what does masculinity mean to each individual, and how does it shape each individual. Questions like that are explored in this, and it is just done so well. I love this book. Okay, the next book coming in at a tiny bit higher, a smidge higher, at 4.51, we have Facing the Mountain, which is by Daniel James Brown. It is a nonfiction book. I classify this as life stories because Daniel James Brown uses a lot of voices in his research to tell the story of the Japanese-American experience during World War II in the US, and this was rated at 4.51. I slightly disagree with this rating. I thought this was a good book, but not a great book, and that there were some specific issues with transitions, especially as he was zooming into an individual's life and then zooming out to show context. I thought that those transitions were kind of clumsy. Okay, moving up just a teeny bit. So at 4.53, we have a book of essays, and they are some fiery essays. Yeah, I'm not being very clever because it is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, and I completely agree with this very high rating. I absolutely loved this this essay. James Baldwin really shows his preacherly style. He's got a couple of different styles of writing. One of them is very casual and loving, and the other one is very fierce and strict and to the point, but also done in a very loving way. He's got this Baldwin has this underlining theme of loving one another in his writing that I really appreciate. But even when he's being stern with the reader, there is still this idea, this feeling that he's coming from a place of love. Anyways, The Fire Next Time is a wonderful essay. I would highly recommend it to anybody, especially those who are fans of Ibram X. Kendi, Ta-Nehisi Coates, somewhere in that vein. If you are interested in that kind of reading about race and different experiences, especially in the US, this is a great book for you. And it's very, very short. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Gracious. Okay, it's coming in at 4.55, which is just a tiny bit higher than James Baldwin, is Alice Osman's, I think I'm saying that right, Heartstopper, the graphic novel series Heartstopper, which I read not that long ago and I thought was tremendous. I mean, wow, this is like, it was just so good. It was so good. So this is the first part in a 4-book series or a 4-part series. It's one of those things where I'm sure you could probably rate them together as an omnibus or separately, and I rated it separately because I read the first part individually on its own and I thought it was amazing. So I'm so glad that this ranks so high. The last book was definitely a shocker to me, and it was the highest rated, and it's super popular. Again, another life story, so nonfiction book about real life people, and the rating was only like a 0.01 higher than the last book. So coming in at 4.56 is Patrick Radden Keefe's Empire of Pain, which is the highest rated book on Goodreads that I have read this year. And I kind of agree with that. Oh my goodness. I really enjoyed this book. This book provoked a lot of rage for me. It was a journey of rage. It was infuriating. As I was going on and on about my rage for the Sackler family in Empire of Pain, I should probably tell you what the whole Patrick Radden Keefe Empire of Pain is all about. So it follows the Sackler family. That's why I said it's life stories. It's using, again, multiple people, multiple biographies to build a larger story. And what Patrick Radden Keefe does is follow the Sackler family, who really created the OxyContin industry, especially in the US. And he tracks and traces this story about how this prescription drug industry grew. And he sort of traces it back. He does trace it back to the Sackler family. And it is infuriating through and through. I did this as a group read with a couple of other people, one of which is Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot here on YouTube. And her and I, along with our other readers, were enraged the entire time. It fueled a lot of really interesting conversations, and it made me I left feeling a bit sad about humanity after I read that book. And I don't love that feeling, the feeling of like bleakness in humanity. And so I wouldn't have rated it as high as those who have read it have, you know, coming together as almost like over a 4.5 star rating. I don't know if I would have rated it that high because I like books that have at least a small kernel of hope in them. But yeah, I could see why a lot of people enjoy this because it does provoke a very specific reaction out of the reader. Again, one of the reasons why I had a difficult time reading this, because I don't like to be provoked to anger. Okay, so this video is getting a tiny bit long, and it's one of those sorry not sorry moments, but there are 2 more things that I want to go through. First of all, the lowest rated books according to Goodreads that I've read this year. I very much disagree with that. And a goal change for my reading, and I'm gonna leave that to the very, very end. Okay, so the lowest rated books. I'm gonna do I'm gonna actually do the 4 lowest, maybe the 5. Coming in at 3.73, didn't even break a 4. I have nothing that's, you know, horridly low. I have nothing that's shockingly, like, despicably low. Okay, coming in at 3.73 was The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. What? This is a historical fiction novel set in New Zealand in the 1800s, I believe, during the New Zealand Gold Rush, and it is a murder mystery that takes a very unexpected turn. I love this book. I thought it was brilliant. This is a brilliant book. I even bought a copy. So I borrowed a copy from the library, and I even bought it. I bought it, y'all, because I just loved it so much, okay? It was so good. It was so good. Okay, the next lowest rated book, so we're getting, lower as we go, is 3.69. And this is a satirical fiction book. I put it as a satirical fiction, and it is Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. Unfortunately, I can kind of see why. I can see why this was rated quite low. Rachel Yoder had a brilliant and beautiful idea with Night Bitch about a woman being angry at her role, at her life, her life and her role in society, and sort of devolving into an animalistic kind of creature. That is what Night Bitch, the kernel of the idea was. I thought it had such a poor execution, and so I can understand why it is at the lower end of the 55 books that I've read according to Goodreads. Okay, coming in just a 0.01 point, lower is at 3.68. Another shocking one for me because it works so well, and that was The Idiot by Elif Batuman. I read this as a buddy read with Fraser Simons at the channel Springboard Thought, and we both liked it. I don't understand why this is getting such a low rating in my groupings, It tells the story of a very quiet and kind of mousy and internal processing type of person named Selene, who is experiencing college her freshman year, and it's a quiet book, a quieter book than most, and a very subversive book, and really plays off of Bottomann's cleverness and the way that she subverts expectations. So I could understand if a reader wasn't jiving with the ecosystem of references Bottoman was putting together, or was somehow not getting along with the main character because she is very quiet and insular, and you don't get a lot of her internal workings. You kind of have to parse them out for yourself. I can see why it was rated low, but I really liked it. I thought it was a great book, and I would encourage those who want kind of an alternative and more quiet campus novel type of reading experience, I would actually point you to The Idiot. Okay, so we've come to the lowest rated books that I've read according to Goodreads, and it's another nonfiction. So my lowest and highest rated books are bookended by nonfiction reads. So coming in at 3.63, I am shocked because I actually really love this book, and that is The Doctor's Blackwell by Janice P. Nomura. Now, the subtitle is How Two Pioneering Sisters Brought Medicine to Women and Women to Medicine, and this tells the dual biography of the Blackwell sisters, Emily and Elizabeth Blackwell, who paved the way for women in medicine in the US, and it tells their story of that part in their life, the part in their life in which they are working to become doctors, practicing medical professionals in the US. And that's how the story is followed. And I ranked this as my #1 book for the BookTube prize when I read for it back in February. So I'm shocked that it is the lowest rated book on this list. So yeah, oh, and then let's end with this. So I was really kind of keeping an eye on how many books I was reading this year, and if you may know, or maybe you don't, I will tell you now, but I didn't set a book goal for the year. I wanted to read naturally and to see where I ended up. And yeah, so at the middle of the year, July 1 about, I was thinking about setting a goal based on how many books I've read so far. And so I did set a reading goal, which is quite exciting for me, and I have set it at 100 books. Maybe not a lot to some of you, maybe a ton to some of you, but for me personally, Shelley Swearingen, I have never read 100 books in a year, unless you counted, picture books or something like that. And I'm thrilled, I am excited, I'm ecstatic that is a goal that I might accomplish this year. And I just never saw myself as a reader who would have read as many books as 100 books in a year. And yeah, so I'm thrilled, beyond thrilled, that I can set this goal, and that if I keep up the same pace, logically, if I keep up the same pace as I did in the first half of the year, then I should easily meet my goal for the end of the year at 100 books. I don't know why I keep saying that. It just seems like an outstanding number in my brain, okay? Like, it just seems like a lot. So very happy to have set that goal, and yeah, just working away at it. So yeah. Anyhow, I will leave, I will leave information. What will I leave down below? I will leave you with this. Tell me about you and your stats. I shared. It's your turn. I would love to know some of the highest rated books according to Goodreads and how they compare to your opinions. Yeah, I would love to know that. I would just love to know how many books you've read this year, your most read genre. If I can get it together, this is what I was going to say. I will round up the questions that I asked myself, and I will leave them down below in the description box in case you want to use those questions to help formulate a response in the comments, or if you make videos, maybe you'll feel so inspired to do a stats video as well. I love this kind of thing. Again, I'm a numbers nerd. I just love this kind of thing. So yeah, share your stats below if you have any to share. I would love to know, as I mentioned before. And that is it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. And yeah, I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys.